Hello everybody, welcome to SeasonPassGaming and welcome to our first top 10 list. So it's been 3 weeks into the new year now and there's been some announcement about games delays. But before we move on towards the new year, I want to look back at some of the most important shocking announcements we had from 2015. So before we start, I want to give a couple disclaimers about this piece. Number one, this really goes without saying, but because this is the internet, I have to say this. All of this is my opinion. There is no metric that measured how important these news are. I base it on a mix of what created the most chatter among gamers and what could potentially be an important announcement for the industry. Number two, so none of this announcement has to be necessarily good or necessarily bad. And in a lot of ways, some of these announcement might not have panned out the way they planned it for, but I'm talking about the actual announcement that happened that time and how much conversation it picked up afterwards. Number three, it's for fun, guys. You don't have to agree with me with all the stuff here, although you could at least hear me out on why I thought of these things. Everybody has a different perspective. I'm a certain type of gamer based on a certain location with an different upbringing to everybody else, so unsurprisingly people would have a different outlook on these things. With that said, let's get on with this list. So number 10, Destiny the Taken King becomes the most downloaded DLC on PS Store. Now, before everybody freaks out, you might wonder why of all the things that happened this year, this is in the top 10. Let me explain a bit. The reason I thought this should be in, like I did debate whether or not I should be putting this into the list, but the reason I think it should be put in was because I don't think anyone really expected it to be downloaded that much. They actually got more downloads of this DLC than when Destiny, the original Destiny, came out when it was the most hyped. This is really surprising considering the rather lukewarm reception of the game. Apparently a lot of people still like it though, enough that to buy it on launch day or at least to give it a try again. Like we're talking about the first day. It beat the original Destiny on the first day. Of course there's some funny math in it because I think they're counting just downloaded, and even though the Taken King was also released on retail, most people probably downloaded rather than buying on retail. Unlike the original Destiny, I'm sure just more people who bought it on from a retail store than downloading it. But that said, it's still a lot of people who downloaded that game on day one, on this DLC on day one. And considering how, again, lukewarm the reception of this game was, that's really surprising. But apparently a lot of people do love it, and so yeah, that really worked out for them. I personally think the game is fun. Although a bit lacking, like everybody else said, it is like content wise it's missing like quite a bit, but because the moment to moment gameplay is so much fun, they could build on from that base. And yeah, I thought, and by the way, I thought version 2.0, which they released afterwards, was such a great improvement. Although it does put up the question whether we did pay $60 for essentially a beta testing a game for them, right? Anyway, Activision got a lot of money again from this game, so good for them. Number 9, Silent Hills gets cancelled. As Konami continues to get crazier and crazier, they cancelled probably the most anticipated horror game ever. A game, by the way, which has Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro attached to it. Why? Nobody knows. I mean, even del Toro went out to say like, I have no idea what happened. It just, I don't know, it just wouldn't work out and they canceled the game. My assumption, of course, is, and as like my assumption and a lot of people's, of course, is Kojima. Whatever problems Konami's having with Kojima affected this game, and probably the biggest horror game that was supposed to come out after ever. So yeah, that happened. Number 8, PlayStation 4 continues to dominate the console market. Okay, this one really isn't one big announcement, it was more of a continuous release of info. I think everybody were waiting for that big reversal when Xbox starts its fight back, because Microsoft has been doing pretty decent decisions lately. But yeah, it never happened. Once in a while, Xbox might win a month of sales in North America, but PS4 will then take back that month and then win the next few months. And that's in the North American market too, where the Xbox sales is strong. Like elsewhere in the world, it's all Sony. Even Phil Spencer, the boss of the Xbox division, has pretty much admitted that they probably won't catch up to the PS4. Which I think is quite honest of him and probably good PR. You remember they had like that PR disaster they called the launch was really messy, and he took it around. He was the guy who steered the ship around for Microsoft and got Xbox competitive again. It's probably unlikely for them to catch Sony, although I don't know, something crazy might happen, but I doubt they'll be able to do it. Just out of if Sony continues to do what they're doing. Yeah, the last numbers for the PS4 is now around 35.9 million sales after just 2 years of coming out. That's pretty good. And the thing about Xbox, people have to remember too, is they're outselling the Xbox 360, which is their best-selling console ever. So they're doing all right. They're just not at the level of what Sony's doing, but they're doing okay. As a side note, PC game numbers also continue to grow. It's actually now bigger than the console market. Although, if you're a developer, that number is a bit misleading because there are more games on PC. It's a much more saturated market, and generally speaking, if a game gets released on both console and PC, it would sell better on console, specifically the PS4. There might be exception here and there, but generally that's the case. So for publishers, they still do get more money out of selling it on a console than on a PC. But the PC market as a whole is much bigger than the console market now, which is for a lot of people is good because the PC market is much more open than the console one. So it's great. Number 7, Star Citizen announces $100 million in funding. And they also releases Squadron 42, the cast of Squadron 42. $100 million in crowdfunding. Just think about that for a minute. This game has the same funding, well, similar to the amount funding of the biggest franchise from publishers like Rockstar, Activision, EA. And this is all crowdfunded, well, most of it anyway. And that's insane. That's a ridiculous amount of money for supposedly, if it's all crowdfunded. They also released Squadron 42's cast this year, and I'm really excited about this game. I really like old flight games, when there's a bit of story attached to it and there's characters to talk to it. It's very, very old school, and I love it. It looks really good too. Hopefully they would actually release a release date now, and also give a bit more concrete specification on what you need to run this game smoothly. Number 6, Fallout 4 announced this year, and then also released this year 5 months later. This was also Bethesda's first E3 conference, which is news by itself. But yeah, Bethesda really got this PR thing down this year. They announced a game at E3 and then 5 months later released it. And instead of making everybody wait 2 years after teasing a game and then releasing endless amounts of trailer for 2 years before delaying it again for another year. And this is what most companies do, but no, they did I love what they did. It was like, okay, big announcement, we're gonna make a conference, Fallout 4, and here's the release date this year. You get to play it this year. I wish more publisher would do it, but of course, realistically speaking, a lot of publishers won't, because, well, they have to market the game and all sorts of stuff. Also, Fallout 4, Bethesda could do it with Fallout 4 because Fallout is such a big franchise. It's a very, very similar situation to Star Wars, when people were saying that Disney did such a good job of not spoiling the movie throughout all these production, all these trailers, all these release and this panel and stuff, and nobody knows if you didn't read any of the leaks, you don't know what's going on, unlike most movie trailers where they actually show the story in the trailers. But again, the reality is most movies can't get away with that. Like it's been, studies have come out saying that people like knowing what they're getting into. The only reason it worked for Star Wars is because it's Star Wars and everybody's gonna watch Star Wars anyway, so why ruin the movie by spoiling it? While other movies, they do have to show what the movie's about, and generally they actually say what the story is so that people actually go watch the movie, which is it's a bit sad, but understandable. Number 5, Arkham Knight gets pulled from Steam. Now, I'm a very big Arkham Knight fan. I actually really love this game. I like the story. I think it's very polished. It's technically impressive. The fighting is as good as ever. But I also played on my PS4 instead of my PC because the PC version is a mess. Even after they fixed it, after they pulled it and they put it back on Steam, like a lot of people were still complaining it doesn't work. I don't know how they could have messed it up that bad because Rocksteady is a really good developer. But the big news here is that Steam, I'm not sure who initiated it. I think Warner said they did it, but the fact that it coincided with the Steam refund being implemented, I honestly believe that was the biggest factor for them to pull it down from Steam. So I don't know when the last time such a big game got pulled from any kind of store, so that's really big news. And it's gonna be interesting to see how this will affect future game releases on Steam, as we were just talking about. PC now is a much bigger market than the console market, so it'll be interesting. Number 4, Nintendo NX announcement. So finally, Nintendo officially announced that they're working on something. They say it's gonna be different and it's gonna be a new experience, and that's pretty much it. No release date, nothing. But yeah, it's a new Nintendo console though, so you know, it's Nintendo's. Everybody's quite curious to see what actually is gonna happen. A lot of people are saying that it's gonna come out at the end of 2016, so that's this year. We'll see what happens. Number 3, Xbox One gets backward compatibility. 2 years late. This is massive news when it came out because I don't think this has ever been done before. In fact, I'm fairly certain this has never been done before. No console has ever been given backward compatibility after it came out. They've taken out backward compatibility before, like newer versions of the console and the slim version of the PS3 came out, but they've never added in that ability. So they're really trying to get back on the good side of the older hardcore gamers, and this is a massive difference to what Sony's doing too, which is asking people to pay so you can stream old games onto your PS4. Unfortunately, it also might be 2 years too late. Backward compatibility is the most effective during the launch window of a console, when you're trying to convince people to buy your console right now because hey, it's fine, you can still play your old games on it. Not 2 years later down the line when the good games are coming out, the good current gen games are coming out. I mean, think about that for a minute. They're releasing that service the same time as Halo 5, Fallout 4, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. Why not play those games instead of, right? Like, why are you gonna be playing 360 games when there's a time when these good games come out? I think it's a really good effort, and they obviously took a lot, and it must probably took quite a bit of time to do this, because they kept saying 2 years ago, they were saying, oh, it's impossible. Well, apparently it's possible, but they probably took a lot of manpower to get this working. Although, so I think we have to give it a bit of time to see how much this will actually affect sales. But initially, it doesn't look like it will too much because it's a bit too late, and yeah, at this point, it's all about the new generation, the current gen. It's so funny because we keep still calling next gen, even though it's current gen. So yeah. Number 2, Shenmue 3 announced its Kickstarter. The Last Guardian kind of re-announced itself, and finally Square Enix listens to people, and we are getting the Final Fantasy VII Remake we asked for on the PS4. So this of course was on the Sony E3 conference, much as this was the Sony's big news, in the same way that Xbox backward compatibility was its big news on its conference. So I put this one ahead of the Xbox announcement because I think it will have a bit more impact on the PS4, depending on how good these games come out. Plus, the timing of the thing was so funny. It was so good. Because I don't know if they knew, but because the Xbox conference was first on E3, and then people saw that and say like, okay, how is Sony gonna top this, right? And then nostalgia bomb. It's Sony doing what Sony has been doing this generation, which is appeal to the people who are actually watching these streams, which is the older hardcore gamers, right? People watching the stream are the older hardcore crowd, not the people who wants to watch TV on their Xbox, which you can put on a console. I think it's a good idea. Just don't make that the biggest announcement of your announcement. So yeah, it's a great PR move on Sony's part again. These games were like favorites of these old. It's not that old. It's just the '90s generation. Let's put it that way. And whether or not you think these games are great or deserves remaster or whatever, it's good publicity for them. People are gonna buy it. So all in all, it's a good thing for Sony. And number 1, Kojima is free. Now, I have to put this on top of the list because this entire thing, this drama, has been the most drawn out drama saga in recent years, to the point of being hilarious. Nobody knows what really went down with them. Konami keeps flip-flopping on what their actual stance on it, releasing ridiculous statements like, oh, he's on vacation, and then blocking him from getting his award. Even remember when, just bringing it back to what Del Toro said, like, I don't know what happened, like when they talk about how this thing got cancelled, this thing that should have been a dream project. And then of course, finally at the end of the year, which makes the story even better because it happened at the very end of the year, Kojima announces it's now independent, has a partnership with Sony, which really isn't that surprising to anyone because he always had a good relationship with them, as considering most of his games has come out on PlayStation. But I want a new hashtag though. Hashtag free Metal Gear Solid, and give us those final missions, those missing missions from MGS5. Yeah, so anyway, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe if you want to see more content.